This is an I Am Listening exclusive podcast.
I'm Numi Gildert.
I'm Harriet Taylor.
And you're listening to Tech Girl Energy, the weekly debrief.
Our picks of this week's tech headlines.
And what we think of them.
We're aiming for 50% informative, 50% fun.
Let's dive in.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Tech Girl Energy, the weekly debrief. We're on episode 11 now, and we've got tons of interesting news to talk about this week. My name's Harriet.
And I'm Numi. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. We wanted to start with this story that made us laugh just really quickly, because kind of following on from last week's episode where we were talking about the UK potentially banning social media for under 16s. And I said in that episode, I thought Australia had already banned it, but they're currently in the process of trying to write the legislation, which leads us on to this story.
You know what? When I saw this story, it made me chuckle. Nearly lol. Not quite, but nearly.
Close.
Just because I've been using this social media site, so it made me reevaluate myself. So basically, LinkedIn has said they're too boring for kids for social media ban. So they've basically said they think they're too dull for kids to warrant its inclusion in a proposed ban on social media for under 16 years old. And to be honest, when I've used LinkedIn, I don't think I've seen anyone under the age of probably like 20.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, apparently some of these companies, like social media companies, Meta, Google, Snapchat and TikTok, they're all currently challenging the planned law, and they're submitting their challenges to lawmakers in Australia, and LinkedIn have just gone, here's our case. We've got no kids using it anyway, so...
I mean, LinkedIn's great as well for networking, I think, and just like... I'm assuming if social media is, getting more integrated into our life and stuff like that, like I've had job offers from LinkedIn.
Yeah, for sure.
Job that I found on LinkedIn. So that's going to help 16-year-olds when they're leaving school, maybe to hook them up with internships, like university students. I feel like this one actually has a use case rather than just posting, photos and sharing your life.
Well, this is what I think could be quite interesting. If LinkedIn becomes exempt from the social media ban because they're like, well, we don't have any kids using it, do you think we could then get a point where young people are using it and then LinkedIn becomes like the new Instagram?
You know what? Yeah, I can see it getting hijacked. Like, do you actually think that teenagers are going to stop using these social media sites? There's no way. They'll just start using it like underground or something. Yeah, people used to get fake IDs to go into clubs. Not condoning it, not said I ever did that. People will start doing that online, surely.
Yeah, it's going to be, we talked about this a lot last week in our discussion, so if you're interested in this kind of whole debate, then definitely go back and listen to episode 10. It's going to be an interesting thing to observe because I honestly don't know how they're going to enforce it. So I'm just interested to find out what their propositions are.
Yeah, like we're going to get internet police. Like, how's this going to work?
Just someone sliding into your DMs. Stop, police.
License and registration, please. It'd just be like your passport number. But on this note, like still talking about, sort of the internet, and I was just about to say what goes on up there if the internet exists in the sky. But Google have been told, right, and this is quite dramatic, that they need to sell Chrome to end their monopoly on search. And they're told this by the US Department of Justice. And it's the world's most popular web browser, like by a mile. And it's basically been said to sort of help with the anti-competition like landmark ruling that happened in August, where they said that Google was illegally crushing its competition in online search.
Yeah, this is like a big thing, because Chrome is probably one of Google's biggest products, apart from maybe the search engine itself. But I don't, this is actually a question. I don't really know, and you might not know the answer, but I don't really know Google's infrastructure anymore. Like, is the search engine separate from Chrome as a business function, or is it now included in Chrome? Because Chrome's obviously just a web browser.
Yeah, like as soon as I've started reading this, I immediately, the cogs just started ticking in my brain, because obviously you've got Alphabet. I know you said Apple. Lol. Alphabet owns, Google and all of Google sort of subsidiaries, etc. And there's a search feature because you can access Google from any other browser. And then there's obviously Google Chrome, which is a browser itself that has Google built into it. So if they sell Chrome, what is that actually going to change for Google search?
Yeah.
with what I'm trying to figure out in my head, because that's still going to exist. You're just not going to have that specific browser.
Yeah, and that integration. Kent Walker, who is the president of global affairs at Google, in his response to the Department of Justice said it would break a range of Google products even beyond search that people love and find helpful in their everyday lives. Because I guess at the moment, because it's all in-house under the same company, you have that flawless integration. Whereas if they had to carve out Chrome into a different business function, you know, you're talking about how do you do data sharing between two different companies securely and safely? Like, you know, how do you separate that data? How do you do data migrations? It would be mad.
Like it's saying that it's going to try and force the firm to stop entering into contracts with companies like, you know, Apple and Samsung that make the Google search engine the default on like a lot of their products, including smartphones. Like it just wouldn't make it the default search engine. But what's that got to do with Chrome? Yeah, like that. I feel like to me they're different things, because you can actually change what search engine you use in Chrome. You could just go to, is it DuckDuckGo, for example?
Yeah. Or Ecosia, the one that plants trees.
I think what we kind of need is we need another big player to step in and compete with Google. Maybe people just haven't seen it be worthwhile, because if you get rid of this Google void, who steps in to fill it? And if people keep choosing Google, even though they do have other options, why are they doing this? Why is no one trying to compete? I guess there is the case of, you know, like Google search engine optimization. Lots of companies pay to have their sort of, their company or like their links promote the It's to try and stop people just using Google and go elsewhere. I don't know. It's interesting. I don't have the answers.
Yeah, it would be like such a big shakeup, and I think it brings a lot of interesting questions as we enter into. I think we're starting to really enter like a very digital age. It sounds like an obvious thing to talk about, to say, but if you really deep it, and a lot of the time when we've created these digital products, they started as something much smaller that then grew and grew and ended up becoming, you know, a publicly traded organization.
Yeah.
Company kind of thing. And it's interesting now that there are so many conversations between lawmakers and these organizations controlling them. It's almost like we've just let them become these beasts and to just grow and do whatever they want. And now it's like, should we have done that? So it's like, are we going to enter this new age where the internet is not owned by big corporations? Like, are we trying to move towards an era, where it's like the communist internet?
I think it's a weird one, because like I think we kind of had that back in the day, and then obviously because we live in a capitalistic society, people are like, how can we monetize it? Then we ended up with the big players, and we definitely have been in a digital era. Again, not always willing to steer the focus towards it, but I think AI coming in the game has kind of made people be like, okay, we need to start legislating, start thinking about this. I think the way the internet moves and the way just sort of like technology and innovation moves, it's always kind of one step ahead of government to make, you know, you're always going to have early adopters which push the masses to look and start using something, and then people have to catch up.
Yeah.
And I think that's still happening just now with the internet. I guess with the whole AI discussion, it's kind of pushing that to happen sooner with the internet as well. But we're still not moving quick enough. And also we don't know what the right or wrong thing is if it's constantly changing.
It's true.
So I don't know at this point. Can we regulate the internet? In all honesty, I don't know.
Another vote for the internet police.
I don't want it. I just want us to be able to do what we want, but obviously have limits on if it's really, really bad.
Well saved there. Harriet's like, I just want to go on the dark web.
I was like, no. What else have we got for people today?
So moving away from the internet into physical devices, systems, etc. A company in China called Hesai are planning to halve their Lidar prices next year in the hopes that there's going to see a wide adoption of these sensors used in electric cars. Now, Lidar is a type of sensor that uses lasers to produce three-dimensional images. And in the context of using it in a car, it's able to map a vehicle's surroundings. So they are crucial for autonomous driving. If you've ever been in a Tesla, you can see they have mapping software where you can like see cars and pedestrians around you in kind of a very abstract 3D map of your proximity. This tech is already in some cars. But the idea is if we want to have fully self-driving cars, they're going to need these kinds of sensors and systems. So basically, they're planning on halving these prices of these LiDAR so that cheaper electric vehicles that are priced around 20k will be able to use them. So it's not just like high value, top of the market cars that could become autonomous. It's like opening up that market for a wide range. So kind of exciting, very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I was originally just going to ask you what's LiDAR, but I think you've explained that really, really well.
I did do sensors and instrumentation at uni.
You know what? I feel like I did as well, but clearly I've forgotten what that means. Good use of a master's degree there. But yeah, no, I think this is really interesting. And I think even like non-electric vehicles still use those sensors. A lot of like, you know, the newer cars have sensors to tell you if you're about to reverse into another car, you know, things like that. I think like there's so many sensors being put on vehicles. I forget how expensive that might be. Mm-hmm. And I guess the way the market's going, especially legislation as well, saying that we need to have X amount of like electric vehicles on the road. We need to stop selling maybe like fuel, petrol, all that type of cars. We need to be making more electric vehicles, and it's hard for people on lower incomes to purchase one if they're all at a really high price point.
Yeah.
And still not that many used ones filtering into the market. So I think this will be really good because as well as that, once we've got like some cheaper electric cars in the market too, eventually they're going to like trickle down, and then people that might have just bought like a $2,000 Vauxhall Corsa when they pass the test, i.e. me, might actually be able to get an electric vehicle because, you know, they're a lot cheaper to buy. I think it's going to do really well, you know, for people just being able to access that. Still got a gripe with electric vehicles, which is another topic, but I don't think we've got the infrastructure yet for them in England.
No, I agree. I absolutely agree. That's my main gripe. Like I would 100% if I could have an electric car, but I live on a road that only has on-street parking, and we do have a lamppost that has an electric charge in it, but there's only one of them, and I don't really feel like fighting my neighbours for it. So yeah, I absolutely agree. The infrastructure is a huge limiter for electric vehicle space. What do you think about this being used though for autonomous cars? Like, do you think really how close do you think we are to having self-driving cars on the road? I know that like some trials, but like widespread.
Well, sometimes I see them and I'm like, this is sick. Like the first time I heard about them, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be great. And then I remember it's people like me writing the code for this work. That sounds ridiculous. But then you see some of them fail. Like you see some like stupid Tesla video where it just does something crazy, like the doors won't shut properly, or like, do you know what I mean? And because a lot of them are autonomous, like driving, if you don't know how to override the system, or if you can't even do that, how do you save yourself? Like, is this final destination? I mean, I think the more we use it, I need to stop scaring people, sorry. The more we use them, the better data it gathers and the better we can make these autonomous driving cars. I think they are the way forward at the end of the day, but I think you've got this added variable to the roads, which is humans. If you've probably got lots of autonomous cars on the road, they're probably going to work a lot better, because I can imagine at some point as well, you could just, I don't know, have a little network online telling you where all the cars are, how to like get them to flow through traffic optimally, you know, like swarm around. When you have humans in there, humans are way less predictable on how they're going to act, so that's going to make it way harder for the autonomous vehicle.
Totally agree with you. I have exactly the same opinion. Like, I think there are ways that they could work really well if we just one day went, okay, all cars on the road are autonomous. Yeah. But getting to the point where we have like a hybrid situation, so you have some driven cars and some autonomous cars. And also, I think in any of those cases, pedestrians are a huge variable because we just do the weirdest stuff.
Like this morning, I think it was about like, I was on my way to the gym. It was only 6 or something. And I was going down, it was a 30 road, right? And it's a straight road. There's no way this person could have not seen me. And like, I'd say like a few meters before I got to it, this guy just decided to walk across the road in front of me. So I stopped and I was like, okay, like you can have just waited a few seconds. But yeah, we do weird things.
We do weird things. So I think if you're working in autonomous driving industry, in the car industry, working on that kind of stuff, I wish you the best of luck.
I feel like writing code for autonomous driving cars, you've got people's lives in your hand at that point.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'd want that responsibility.
No.
That makes sense.
So you're like, just let me stick with the apps.
Yeah, let me make cute things.
I just want to make a nice looking button. That's all I want to do.
That animates and has a cute little haptic feedback point. Let me just do that.
I'll stay in my zone. Okay, we'll move on to our final story of today. I personally, when we're doing research for this podcast, love it when there's an animal themed one because it's just cute.
I do love an animal.
So this story is they have created an AI model. This is interesting because they're like banding around AI. It's a machine learning model. To identify squirrels, to protect endangered red squirrels. So in the UK, we have red squirrels and we have grey squirrels, which are an invasive species. The population of red squirrels has like really declined over the past couple hundred years. And there's a lot of talk about trying to conserve those populations and reduce the populations of grey squirrels. So basically, it's called the Squirrel Agent AI. It's being tested around the UK, and the person who built the program, Emma McClenaghan, who's chief exec of Genesis Engine, she said that basically it detects different types of squirrels using features on them, so their chins, their ears, and tails. So it's a image processing algorithm that's able to identify different assets in the images, categorize them, and then say that's a grey squirrel or that's a red squirrel. And apparently can tell the squirrels apart with 97% accuracy. And then the idea is that it's not just detecting that information, they then do stuff with it. So if it's a red squirrel, they can then trigger a feeder or give the red squirrel medicine. If it's a grey squirrel, they cannot feed it, and they could even give it a contraceptive to stop it from breeding.
Right.
And I'm a bit like, is that a bit playing God with the squirrel but yeah.
I was about to say that.
But my favourite thing about this story is that the people that started it did it because their dog likes watching squirrels in their garden. So it was Miss McConaughey and her partner invented this algorithm for fun, and now it's being used by Bangor University, the Scottish Wildlife Trust, Ulster Wildlife. And I just kind of love that, two nerdy people were like, oh, our dog loves to watch squirrels. Let's make an AI algorithm to identify the squirrels.
So they made this algorithm, right? Or they made Squirrel Agent for their dog. How does this tie in with that? That's what I'm going to know. The dog likes watching squirrels. Why do they need to make?
Well, I think because it ties into like a feeder, I guess the idea is if you're feeding more red squirrels, you're probably going to attract more red squirrels, or more red squirrels are going to be born. So there's going to be more squirrels.
So their dog
for the dog to watch squirrels. I think so.
Interesting. But yeah, I don't know why I'm questioning it so much.
Yeah, they say they wanted to increase the local squirrel population for their border collie.
He's so right.
He's very passionate about animal conservation.
Oh my gosh. And apparently they're saying whiskers are like an individual fingerprint. And the idea is to identify each individual squirrel, not just whether it's red, but you could say, this is Sally the squirrel and her dad was Ben and she travelled up to Scotland through England.
I love this person.
Oh my gosh, this person. Yeah. This is such a great use of data. I think this is cool. I like the fact it was for a border collie more than the fact that we're trying to play God with red and grey squirrels. That's such a random story. I love it.
Okay. As soon as I saw AI squirrel spotter, I was like, that's going in the podcast this week.
I love how you're like, by the way, guys, it's not AI though, it's machine learning.
Well, it's just, I think that the two are often conflated, aren't they? Yeah. And people band AI around. This feels to me like it is a image recognition software, which falls more into machine learning for me than like a lot of the AI algorithms that we're used to that are more like language based, in my opinion, which is not an expert position. So you can fight me in the Instagram comments if you want.
Or on LinkedIn if you're under 16 in a few months.
Because it's the only place you'll find me.
Or Roblox if you're over 12.
Yes.
I've got to get them all in there.
And if you want to find us on any of those platforms, we're at Tech Girl Energy, but we are not on Roblox or LinkedIn, actually. Maybe we should get on that before next week. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
This has been an I Am Listening exclusive podcast. For more information, head over to our website, im-listening.co.uk.